I'm Lawrence BoarerPitchford, author. I live in Sacramento. I've been a Sacramento native for quite a while, went to Sac State. Currently, I'm trying to do the writing scene. At the beginning, I was an avid reader. Liked to read Edgar Rice Burroughs, H.G. Wells. Larry Niven was another great influence. Orson Scott Card, Robert E. Howard was another one. So, you know, all of these authors had some sort of influence in my perspective and ability to write. Having that sense about me that I wanted to also tell stories was a big factor in motivating me or shaping me into a writer. I needed an emotional outlet, and so I tried my hand at writing poetry, you know, trying to get that sense of myself from my mind, onto paper. So I wrote some poetry for a little while, trying to figure myself out. And then in the 90s, a buddy of mine wrote a short story, which kind of was the catalyst for becoming a writer. You know, he could do it, I could do it. So I wrote one. And the next time my buddy wrote one, and then the next time I wrote one, and so on and so on. Until finally we had, maybe a dozen of these short stories that were about 10 to 20 pages long. It just seemed like the natural progression to create a book out of it. I'm a co-author of that piece. And again, my buddy who was my roommate, my college roommate, was the other author. And so our adventure started when I suggested that maybe we convert all these short stories into a book, either a compilation of short stories or turn it into a novel. And we decided to turn it into a novel. And after a year or a year and a half of shaping those pieces and filling in the gaps and creating a continuous plot, we had a piece of work that we thought we could shop around. They referred us to a publisher named Pulsar Books at the time. So we submitted to them, they looked it over, they liked it, and then asked us to come on board and start working with them. And it was meant to be a comedy, a tongue-in-cheek farce, poking fun at fantasy stories that we had read in the past. So we called it Tales of Mad Cows. And then we thought, well, sex sells, so we'll just tack on the end brothels. And true enough, the story is a story of three swashbuckling anti-heroes who are drinking and fighting and whoring at times their way through this story. Actually, it's very well written, and it's a very entertaining story. But at the same time, it's no longer being distributed. So to find it is probably pretty hard. I know that there's only one that I've ever seen for resale out there on the internet, on Amazon.com. But I'm currently working to digitally remaster the original and put it out for free. Currently, I put out onto Amazon 5 short stories that have to do with Robert E. Howard's world of Hyboria. And Robert E. Howard wrote the Conan series, created this fantasy genre, the barbarian fantasy story. I kind of wanted to do a little homage to him. My focus was to create these short stories that each one leads to the next, sort of like chapters in a book, and tell my own story, my own 3 characters. Yeah, each one can stand on their own. My original idea for breaking them up into these pieces was to allow the reader to read the first one and then decide whether or not they wanted to continue reading them. That was sort of my idea. Put that out there, allow people to try it for 99 cents, check it out. If they like it, cool, buy more. You have to always keep in mind that you want to be in some way commercial. But I don't really think that thought affects the real creative core of the story. I think one of the things that creative people, be it an actor or a musician or a painter or a sculptor, have inside them, I believe the core really is a drive to entertain. That there's desire to see their work be appreciated. Having said that, from the core of myself, I have really been the kind of person who has a passion for writing, to tell stories, to entertain, to get that acceptance from people. So for me, a drive is to, reach into, another person, the reader, and in some way connect emotionally with them. So they say, yeah, I can really identify with that character. Everything else melts away. Good storytelling as a core element has that emotional connection with the viewer, reader, or whomever. I come up with an idea in my head, usually a scene, a visual scene in my imagination. And then I begin to play on that, begin to extrapolate and ask questions about it. Who is this character in my imagination? What is it that they're doing? And then I begin to think about plot and how to create a plot. What is it that the character needs or wants? What is it that they're striving against? What is the complexity? What's the problem? How are they going to solve it? Who's involved in that? And then what is going to be the resolution of that? And then all along the way, what are the smaller complexities? And once you have that sort of package, then you can start breaking it up into smaller components. And those smaller components begin to work on.